Hey everyone, happy Fizz Friday. I am Raymond James Irwin, the interim Chief Champagne Officer and founder of Fizz Champagne and Bubbles Bar, and we are extremely excited to have our first ever virtual tasting live. Actually, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook as well, so you can listen both ways. Now, today we are going to be talking about the Zeemanziek South African sparkling wine. Now, if you don't have it, you weren't able to get it because we did sell out, don't worry. We're going to be talking a lot about really awesome facets of South African wine, sparkling wine in general. A few of the key things that I'm hoping that we can learn together and discover today is going to be about a little bit of the South African wine culture, the history, a little bit of the different grape varietals, climate, what MCC, Method Cap Classique means, what Kepsavonkel means, as well as a few different descriptors and things that we should be tasting when we're tasting sparkling wine, what to look for, and a little bit of the differentials between sparkling and fizz and champagne. So hopefully nobody has opened their bottle yet. It is so tempting. I get it. It's Fizz Friday. It's 5 o'clock. I want to get just a little fizzed up as much as you, I'm sure. But first, before we do that, I want to make sure you all have the best glass. So hopefully you at home have some of our Fizz Riedel glasses. These are the true champagne tulips, the best way to drink sparkling wine and champagne. We do sell these in case you'd like to buy some. And if you don't have a tulip-shaped glass, we recommend a white wine glass. The reason why is because almost 80% of your taste comes from what you smell and the aromas. So it's really crucial to have a glass that you can get your nose in and to really be able to discover it versus a flute. So at Fizz, we believe that the flutes are dead, long live the tulip. So definitely if you have white wine glasses, we recommend go swap those out now if you're using flutes or your trusty tulip. So first, I want to make sure everybody knows the best way to open a champagne or sparkling wine bottle. Of course, anyone can do it with a loud pop, and that's fun, it's celebratory. However, the louder and quicker you open it, the more fizz, the more carbon dioxide will escape. So the quieter you open it, the more the bubbles stay in. So obviously the bubbles are always the goal. So let's go for it. First, you'll usually always see a foil that you can open. Either you can take a wine key or a knife and do that, or you can simply use your fingers. Do a nice even cut around, take off the foil. Next, you'll see the little tassel here. You'll want to unscrew that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Give a little wiggle, keeping the thumb, the pressure firmly on top. You're going to be holding from the bottom. So slowly, very slowly, keeping pressure on top. You're going to open, continually turning the bottle, and then boom. I hope that was as quiet as I was thinking that it was for you. Next, before I pour, I always smell the cork. Now, the reason why is there's this kind of phenomenon called cork taint, called corked wine. And it's coming from this chemical that can get imparted from the cork into the wine. Basically, it'll make the wine, the champagne, whatever you have, smell like wet cardboard, wet dog. It's not good. It's not fizz focused. It's a little fizzed up and not the good kind. So if you're smelling a wet dog, it's not good. Let's chat about that. You should be smelling some fruit. I get some white fruit and apple on this. It smells really good. I think it's going to be a really, really great bottle. So next, we're going to pour. Always recommend thumb in the punt. Good control. Get your fizz glass or whatever glass you have and do just right down the center, kind of like a rat's tail. That's the way we recommend. That way it's clean. Never tilt your glass. There's a big misconception to do that. Again, it's not good for the bubbles. Best thing to do is to go straight down into the center of the glass. I usually like to fill it up to the logo. Just makes me happy. So that's what we'll do. So now, before we actually taste, let's go through a little bit of the whole fizz experience so you can really appreciate this bottle. Now, I'm looking at it, and these bubbles are beautiful, lots and lots of bubbles. really big perlage. Hopefully you can see that there. It's really pretty gorgeous. And that over there as well. Very persistent, lots and lots of bubbles. Very good stream. We call that a perlage, a stream of bubbles. So I'm looking at the color. It's like a straw gold. It's pretty pale, which is typical of sparkling wine. Next, I'm going to give it a little swirl. You can do that either on a surface or, of course, you can open it, but take control. And then give it a good smell. So I get a lot of stone fruit and citrus on this. Now, when it comes to champagne and sparkling wine, stone fruit like nectarines, peaches, very common, especially when it comes to Pinot Noir. And then also citrus, especially when it comes to Chardonnay. So I'm getting both of those. And both of those grapes happen to be in this bottle. So now that I get that smell and I'm getting my nose fully induced in the fizz, we're going to go to a taste. So that first taste right after the nose, keep it in the front of your mouth and see what you're tasting. I get a lot of apple. I'm curious. Put a hand up or something if you're getting apple too, or what fruit are you getting? I'm curious. I definitely get the apple. I get some white peach as well, and for sure the citrus. Lots of lemon zest, lemon peel, for sure coming from the Chardonnay. It's bright. It's focused. It's classic in style. You definitely get the citrus. You get those bright notes. And as we go towards the back palate, you get just a slight bit of yeasty quality, kind of a traditional champagne set. So now that we're tasting, please continue to drink along, ask questions. We'll definitely be answering questions towards the end of our 30 to 45 minutes here. But I want to talk a little bit about the bottle. And when you're looking at a bottle specifically from South Africa, things that you might encounter on it. So if we're looking at this together, you'll see Zimunzik, that's the name of the sparkling winery, the house. Then you'll see Kepsavonko. So that means literally Cape Sparkle in Afrikaans, which is like a modified Dutch language spoken in South Africa as well as in Namibia, which is right above it. So Cape Sparkle, that's when Zimunzik first created the first traditional method sparkling wine. That is what they called it. And many sparkling wineries after that were calling it Cape Sparkle at the beginning. Then you're going to see 2017. So what that means is that's the vintage, that's the year. All grapes in this bottle are coming strictly from that year. Now, when it comes to champagne and sparkling wine, fizz in general, it is a blending wine. So a lot of the times you won't see a vintage on champagne or fizz, and that's because they're blending grapes from multiple years. Usually the most recent harvest, as well as the year prior and possibly the year prior to that. So that's why really champagne sparkling wine is the art of the blend. That being said, a lot of producers, if they feel that they have a great vintage, really a great representation, great quality grapes, they might just make just that year's vintage, which is what they did with Zimunzik in 2017. Brut, that's going to be how sweet it is, how much sugar is going to be in the bottle. So in champagne, you have, in sparkling wine, you have 0 grams up to almost 50 and plus. That will get you Doux, Demi-Sec as well has about 32. Brut has under 12 grams in the bottle. What that means per glass is you're drinking about 80, 90 calories, about 1.5 grams of net carbs. So it's super keto friendly, and we definitely recommend drinking Fizz. So this is going to be Brut. It's about 7.5 grams. So when you're tasting it, taste it again. Does it feel super sweet? Does it feel dry? To me, the sugar added feels perfectly balanced. Just the right enough to round it out. Not to make it austere, not to showcase too much of the sugar. So next, of course, it's coming from South Africa. And then you'll see Method Cap Classique, or Méthode Cap Classique. MCC, as it's commonly known. Now, what MCC means, Method Cap Classique, is that it is, again, made in that traditional way that champagne is made. And what is that way? In case you're not familiar, it just means that where the fizz happens, that secondary fermentation that creates the pris de mousse, the bubbles, that happens in the same bottle that we are pouring from. So that Prix de Mousse, that secondary fermentation happens in the bottle. It's aged for a certain amount of time in cellars, and then it is taken the primary cork or cap off, added a little bit of sugar, put the final bouchon on, and then sold to us. So to be an MCC, Method Cap Classique, it must be made in the way champagne's made, and it must rest in the cellars on the yeast for 1 full year. Now, that's a brand new thing in South Africa. It used to only be for 9 months, and now it is a full year, so longer aging. Still less than you'll find in champagne, but still a decent amount of time. So continue to drink, and let's chat a little bit about the South African sparkling wine. When did that happen? Well, they've been making wine in South Africa for quite a long time, with the Dutch settlers from the 1600s. And in fact, the Ziemensink family, they have been making wine there as well since the 1600s, still owning Ziemensink as well. And so the thing is, though, they did not make the first sparkling until 1971. So it's relatively new there. And the most changes that we've seen have only happened in the past 20 years. When the first sparkling wine was made by Ziemensink, it was made using Chenin Blanc, which Chenin Blanc is still grown there quite a bit, as well as Cab, Syrah, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinotage, which is they're very famous for. But then, of course, the whole movement in the past 20 years and 15 years has been to make MCC with the primary varietals that you find in Champagne. Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and then now just a touch of Pinot Meunier. So in the Ziemensink, you're going to have almost 50-50 Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, which is a little bit more Chardonnay, and then 1% Pinot Noir, or Pinot Meunier, 50% Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Chardonnay in sparkling wine gives backbone, it gives strong acid, it gives age-worthiness. Pinot Noir gives body, it gives fruit, and Pinot Meunier gives fruitiness. So you'll see in a lot of young, true champagne, a lot of Pinot Meunier added for freshness, for just that fruity characteristic, sometimes even floral notes to that. Interesting, the style of Ziemensink in their sparkling wine is going to be classic and a little bit riper. That being said, they do not utilize malolactic fermentation. If you've never heard that term, it's pretty normal. When you are creating champagne sparkling wine, there tends to be a lot of acid. In fact, a lot of harsh malic acid. And malic acid, it's very sharp, it's very bright, and what a lot of times winemakers would choose to do, and it's usually a decision, it's a concerted choice to make, is to convert that malic sharp acid into lactic, softer, creamier acid. So that will give more buttery characteristics, more bready. So for all of you that love Rombauer is very, very heavily utilizes malolactic fermentation. Again, no note, fermentation, it's really a conversion from malic to lactic acid. What's unique about this, considering that it is so bright, yet not harsh, they block intentionally the malolactic conversion. So this does not go through mallow. That's definitely something that's important to understand and to ask when you are tasting or buying champagnes. And it's good to know. Did this go through mallow? Did this not go? Did it partially? Did some of the wine that they use to make the blend go through mallow or not? Again, usually you'll find softer characteristics. You'll find it more buttery characteristics, caramelization when you go through mallow. But this, let's taste again. It doesn't feel harsh. I think it's, again, a really beautiful representation of a solid sparkling wine that doesn't use and doesn't really even need malolactic fermentation. So this is coming, Ziemensink is coming from the region of Stellenbosch in South Africa. It's very near Cape Town. And we went down there as a team a few years ago to discover and find some really great sparkling wines, which we did throughout South Africa. And one of them was Ziemensink. So they're only about 45 minutes away from Cape Town. So it's part of the Western Cape. It's along the Atlantic Ocean. And then you also have the Indian Ocean as well, a little bit further east. So climate-wise, it's going to be a Mediterranean-type climate. So what that means is you're going to have warm days, cool nights, but very, very temperate, very moderate throughout the year. Now, 2017 in South Africa was a bit of a temperamental year. It's a bit difficult year, a lot lower yields. But oftentimes what happens with lower yields is you have higher quality. So smaller bunches, smaller grapes they had at Zimunzik, but the quality was really good. Great aromatics, really great intensity of fruit flavors. Again, another reason why they made that vintage. Before that, their last vintage was 2015. So the climate definitely plays a role. And then again, the grape varietals, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So whenever you're tasting champagne and sparkling wine, the percentage of time that's going to be Chardonnay and Pinot Noir is almost, I'd say, probably 80%, especially if it comes from the Champagne region. And then a lot from our New World as well, from California, and New World also being South Africa, New Zealand, is very, very potent there. So another thing you'll notice on the back of the bottle is this certified sustainability form. Now, this is really interesting to note. In South Africa now, as of 2020, all MCCs, all Method Cap Classique made in the traditional champagne method, must be certified sustainable. And sustainability is really all about being responsible and ethical in your wine production. So that could mean creating the biodiversity in the vineyards, for soil health. That could mean recycling the wastewater used, as well as the renewable energy, perhaps solar, wind, what have you. So it's all about basically creating a production method that is not negatively impacting the environment and the earth. So in order to have that MCC on your bottle, now you must all be certified. And right now there are about 220 or so producers of sparkling wine in South Africa, and about half of them are part of the MCC Association. And of course, now to continue that, they're going to have to join the association. Now, you will see other sparkling wine coming from South Africa, and it might not say MCC. That could mean then that it is not made traditional method, and probably isn't made much more in the economical method of a tank. So the secondary fermentation that gets the fizz, that's happening in the tank, similar to how it's done for Prosecco in Italy, and then again, a lot more inexpensive bottles. And that's always why when you are getting a traditional method sparkling wine, whether it's from the United States, it's from South Africa, or of course in the Champagne region of France, it is usually going to be a bit more. And that is because of the aging that it takes. That is because the aging of the bottle, how long you have to cellar it for. And so the MCC Association is that governing body to ensure the quality. Again, you'll find vintage, you'll find non-vintage. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be better if it is a vintage or if not. I just see Graham Beck is a great house. I absolutely agree, Anthony. That is one of the sparkling wine producers that we actually carry at Fizz. And I would be curious if any of you have had the Zimunzik before or the Graham Beck, and if Fizz was the first place that you had it. It's something that we've been really excited to really kind of champion South African sparkling wines and two really great producers. Another note with Zimunzik is they are pretty large. They're producing about 700,000 bottles of sparkling wine each year. It's a good amount, considering that all of the MCC production is about 7.5 million bottles a year. So the top houses, including Zimunzik and Graham Beck, are the largest houses. They are definitely producing some of the most in quantity when it comes to sparkling wine. So again, we go back and we taste. And as it warms up, I get a little bit more warmth, a little bit rounder. And that I believe is coming from their style again, Zimunzik style, where 1/6 of the Chardonnay that's in this bottle, so 1/6 of about 55%, is being aged and vinified, so turning itself from grape juice into wine, in used oak barrels. So while it's not going to give an oaky flavor whatsoever, it is going to add texture and it's going to add complexity. And again, I think that it does a really great job of bringing that out. And again, bringing citrus, bringing stone fruit into a really, really well done place. I just keep needing to drink more and more. I don't know about you. So what questions do you all have? We would love to answer some questions for you about sparkling wine coming from South Africa, about perhaps when you're tasting champagne, you're tasting sparkling wine, things to look for. The big thing is going to be always freshness. You know, that's always going to be a typical thing of younger sparkling wine and champagne. And I would say Ziemniaczek is definitely a fresh style. Again, I think coming from the lack of malolactic conversion, so you're getting that fresh, zippy type of quality while still having a classic taste, a little bit rounder. So it's definitely going to be sparkling wine, really wonderful to enjoy. Now, what other questions as you're tasting this, or what things are you tasting in the bottle? Are you getting different types of notes, different things on the palate? Is the nose to you a lot different than tasting on the palate? I again keep getting that citrus, which again, when you're tasting champagne sparkling wine, you're going to get. And just going to where champagne is versus the whole sparkling wine. Is all sparkling wine champagne, is all champagne sparkling wine? And the answer, of course, is no. So champagne can only come from the Champagne region of France. It cannot come from anywhere else. And there's about 320 villages that are allowed to produce true champagne. And so then, of course, everything else that is sparkling wine, as we like to say, fizz. In champagne, you have to age the bottle on the lees for 12 months, in the cellars for 15 months. Most do much longer. If it's going to be vintage, it must be 3 years on the lees as well. I saw a question, let's see, about the dosage. It's about 7.5 grams. And as you're tasting it, I'm curious if you think that it's a good dosage amount, if the sugar that's added in the bottle is proper. Of course, I believe that the sugar should only enhance the characteristics that are there. It should never take away. So it's really, to me, kind of like makeup. You should just put on the right amount. It's not there to be garish. It's just there to enhance and make it perhaps a bit more supple and austere. But I think there's also a question about the right temperature. Temperature is a very big debate when it comes to sparkling wine. Really, you don't want champagne or sparkling wine super cold. The reason for that is because you're not going to get the flavors and the aromas. That being said, if you're tasting a very inexpensive sparkling wine or champagne, we highly recommend definitely making it as cold as possible, because the less cold you get, the more room temperature, you're going to kind of taste how not good it is, in all honesty. So right now, Ziemniaczek, if you notice, I have not put it in ice bath. And the reason for that is I believe oftentimes the ice baths will just make it far too cold. So this is going to be sitting at about 40 degrees. So I say between 30 and 50 for vintage champagne. 50 degrees, even 55 degrees is a really, really great temperature. But I'd say for more bright, light, fresh like this, I'd say 40 degrees is a really good one. I see Laura here said that this one is better, a little bit warmed up. And I would agree. Usually the higher quality sparkling wines are going to show more of their potential, more of their components, their fruit, their expression when they are not as cold. And it looks like we have another question.
Yes, Janisa Marquez from Facebook Live asked, is the way it expected to be enjoyed, or do other countries like it chilled? So if you taste more of the different characters of the champagne, depending on the region or depending on where it is, does that make a difference?
Again, I think it's the quality. So quality is always going to be the determining factor of how warm you should drink it, and age and vintage. The older bottle, the less cold you want it to be. I had a 1976 bottle of Veuve Clicquot Grand Dame, I think it was 76 or 79 recently, and I had it at almost room temperature. And the reason for that is that you'll miss so much if you have it cold. So again, quality will always supersede everything else as far as what temperature you should be drinking it at. Good? Wonderful. And I think there may have been another question on Instagram Live. So if you can just repost that question so we can see that there. The big thing when you're tasting champagne, sparkling wine is really at the end of the day to enjoy it. So some people might enjoy fizz that is brighter, that's more youthful, that's younger, whilst other people might like champagne or sparkling wine that's older, that has age, that has a lot more of that brioche, that ready quality to it. It's honestly all up to you. At the end of the day, as long as it's made well, that's what matters. Does South Africa have a grower champagne following like France? They don't. The reason for that is it's overall, most of the producers are small in general, and most can't even get exported. I probably tried for the past 3 years to get one of my other favorite producers called Silverthorn Wines. Definitely go check them out on Instagram at Silverthorn Wines. Karen Lobsher and her husband, just really, really great people making great sparkling wine. But because of just everything and how long it takes to get here and the pricing, it's very hard considering their economy, monetarily wise, is not as strong as ours. So it's a lot harder to get more production in here. But it is definitely drunk there at the better restaurants. You'll see the smaller producers, of course. And the interesting thing, though, is many of these producers are coming over to France and to Champagne, studying with different champagne producers or going and taking tours with them. Another really great sparkling wine, another great MCC, is coming from Genevieve Bubbly. And I forget her first name, her middle name is Genevieve, and she actually happened to be at a great sparkling winery or a great champagne house, Agripar, with me as well, getting to taste and learn. So all these people understand that there's still so much to learn. And a big reason that there has been such an increase in production and quality in the past 20 years is because of the end of apartheid. So because of apartheid, they unfortunately weren't able to get as much in, they weren't able to export as much, they weren't able to get as much cooperation from other countries. Of course, because of what was happening politically in that climate, other countries were kind of boycotting a lot. And it's, again, with their goods and their costs, just made it really difficult. But of course, now that's changing. I definitely highly recommend checking out some more. Lelude is making really great sparkling wine. Valeria is also at the forefront. Boschendal was a second after Ziemzik. Can you export wine directly from South Africa? So if you mean, can you export it as an individual? There's a lot of laws when it comes to bringing in wine, alcohol in general. And overall, if you're selling it, you do have to have an import license. Then you have to have a distributor. Then you have to have a retailer. There's a 3-tier system in the United States that's really difficult. But as far as personal use, you can sometimes, of course, the cost to ship is astronomical. So probably they wouldn't even ship you a case. You probably have to get a pallet, and it'd just be extremely, extremely expensive. This being said, for those of you that are not as familiar with Fizz and our bar here, we do have over 150 different champagne and sparkling wines from all over the world, mostly from our travels and sourcing ourselves. And we have a champagne club that this July we will be taking 26 club members to the Champagne region of France, to some really great houses, both small, the grower houses, medium-sized, Grand Marques as well. And we do look forward to doing another trip to South Africa, doing a trip to Spain for Cava. There's amazing sparkling wine coming from Spain all over. Of course, one thing, just the big thing to know is that there's great fizz all over the world. Don't just get pigeonholed into the wonderful world of champagne. As wonderful as it is, we highly recommend discovering other labels, other producers, other makers, even depending on different methods of making. In our champagne club, where we have about 250 club members, we're bringing to them every month or every other month 2 unique bottles that we don't sell to the general public. Bottles made with really unique stories, ancestral method, just very unique. This month, we're actually featuring an amazing sparkling wine coming from the Canary Islands. So we're really excited about that. We also featured a Haro and Hope Blanc de Blanc, 100% Chardonnay sparkling wine coming from England from my travels in December. And we were the first people to actually, the only people to have this sparkling wine outside of New York and New Jersey. So we could not be more thrilled for that. So if you want more information on our club, please go to fizzandsack.com where you can learn more about the club. You can join. as well as you can even order online bottles that we have. We are now sold out of Zimunzik. If you are interested possibly in getting some more bottles or a case, let us know. Of course, we have a huge selection online, and if you use the code 30 to go, you will get 30% off of everything you order online. So again, at Fizz, we really believe in discovering bottles. We believe in celebrating every day. So if you're out there, and we've had some club members that, before they joined, they didn't know that there were other people that loved Fizz as much as we do and others do. But in fact, it is the happiest beverage on earth, and Fizz, we like to say, is the happiest bar on earth, so Fizzlyland. And it's something to enjoy every day. And like we said, there's bottles at every price point. And at Fizz, we have over 150 different bottles of champagne and sparkling wine for you to discover, for you to try. And so the Zimunzik is one of them that we are just so happy. So again, just kind of in summary with the Zimunzik, the first ever traditional method sparkling wine, again, made in the way that champagne is, where the fizz is created in the bottle that you just poured from, or that we just poured from. It's made in the brut style, so lower sugar added. It is sustainable. It's a true MCC, so you know that's going to be a higher quality than bubbly that's coming from South Africa without that. So always be on the lookout. If you are sold on a bottle or someone's trying to get you to buy a bottle of sparkling wine from South Africa, make sure it says Method Cap Classique or Cap Classique. It's very, very important for quality. Remembering that vintage isn't everything. There's lots of great blends. The Grand Bec Brut Rosé is a non-vintage, so it's blending multiple years together to create that amazing fizz. And also know that South Africa is a younger region, and they are making great quality wines, even their still wines. So if you do see a South African wine on the menu, don't be afraid to try it. It's definitely one that I think that you will discover. So I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have. We're very happy to have had you all today. And finally, before you go and posting the last questions, this upcoming Monday, we are going to do another wonderful deal that will feature two fizzes, one true champagne and one sparkling wine from the Loire Valley. And that will be the Bouvet Rosé Brut Excellence, which will be 100% Cab Franc Rosé, really, really unique. And then coming from the Loire Valley. And then the Louis Roederer, Champagne Louis Roederer, Brut Premier. So you will get both bottles for $75. We'll be posting that on our website 9 a.m. on Monday. So we highly recommend you get that. And I will teach you what Louis Roederer has to do with the United States and the similarities. So again, happy Fizz Friday, everyone. Cheers, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.